Hey guys, I wanted to share 5 things I'm doing in our Kiwi garden this month in January, middle of summer, to get the garden ready to get through the really hot part that's coming so that it keeps pumping for us right into the end of autumn, maybe winter. Let's see how we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove any dead, diseased or dying things. I've got a tomato here that's, I think, got blight. It's given us some really great tomatoes, but as you can see, it's dry, it's kind of gross. The leftover tomatoes will take off and I'll refresh the soil and something else can go in there. I'll cut it back now. Speaking of diseased and dying, I've got powdery mildew on these cucumbers. They have reached the end of, or the plant's reached the end of its usable life. The growing tips have stopped growing. I have planted a new one, which I'll show you later, so I'm going to pull these ones out after I've harvested the fruit. Over here I have a courgette that has, again, powdery mildew, but it's still got plenty of little things growing on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the leaves up the stem that are all mildewy, get rid of them. Kind of opens up a little bit of airflow, I think. Keep all the healthy ones. I sharpened my clippers the other day. I'm not entirely sure why they are not cutting. Again, I call out for any recommendations for garden clippers that are sharp. Stay sharp and do the job. I think there's one more just in here. And maybe just around the back here. So the thought here is that if I open up the bottom and maybe get it off the ground to keep it in the sunshine, in the fresh air, some of these beautiful little yellow things around the side there will come to fruit. So I've popped it up against a post and I have tied it off, so in theory this growing part is going to keep going up and we should have some pretty good fruit and keep it going for the rest of the season. I'll clean up my Brandywine pink tomato. Again, cutting off all the diseased, dead and dying parts. We've got some lovely big fat tomatoes that are looking pretty disease free. I want to try and keep it that way, so let's get rid of the stuff that might reinfect these ones. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to weed. I'm going to take everything out of the garden that is not something I'm trying to grow, because we're going through summer, it's going to get dry and I don't want my veggies and my plants competing with things that shouldn't be in the garden in the first place, such as this grass. So because we planted on top of grass, we did put down some weed mat and heavy layers of dirt because we've filled up the raised beds. We've still got this grass coming through, so for a little while it's going to be a never ending pulling session, but I don't want my plants competing with this voracious weedy stuff, so I'm going to keep pulling it out. Put you back where you belong. Little weeds, try and get them by the roots. It's not looking too bad. We did clean it up a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do, oh, here's one. I missed you. Oh, missed the roots. Oh well. The next thing I want to do is harvest. So I want to take off anything and pull up anything that is actually ready for us to eat. Don't want to leave it in the ground too much longer. So yeah, it's pointless it being in there. We should be eating it. So let's do that. I've got some beetroot here that need to come out, and I've got some beautiful little capsicum on here, which I can honestly probably just eat straight from the vine. So let's pull these out and see what we've got. It's quite satisfying. That's a lovely one. Nice. And by making space by pulling things out you can then use to put your next succession of crops in. And things like beetroot and radish, carrots, they tend to go a little bit woody, we've noticed, if you leave them in the ground for too long. So pick them, will be beautiful like this, and make an amazing salad. Grate up your broccoli, some carrots, some courgette if you've got it, chop some capsicum, feta, roasted cashews, a little bit of mayo, and some maybe salt and pepper, and it will be amazing. Nice, fresh from the garden salad. It's one of Tom's favourites to make with all this stuff. This one's a little bit tiny, but he needs to come out. Pop a few of these off. As you can see, this one here has been on here a bit too long. We want to stop that from happening. Plants will get to a point where they will rot on the vine if you don't take them off. These are really nice. These are the candy cane capsicum, the ones that I got that were discounted in the dead plant section. Clearly they didn't die, and this is so sweet. I'm going to just go and finish this off. Okay, this is all that's left. We're going to give it to the worms, who are happy down here in their worm farm. There we go. I've also got things growing in here. I think these might be capsicum. No, cucumber. From an old cucumber I popped in there. Back to bed. I wonder if there's something in that. Can I take the seeds? Can I take the plants that are growing in my worm farm, pot them up and see what they come to? Maybe a project for another day. Back to my 5 things. Got some cucumber here that I need to harvest. I was going to pull the plant out, but I can see one more, little tiny one here, that may come to something. So I will harvest the cucumber and I will leave the plant in so that I can see if that one comes to anything. It's a pretty good looking bowl so far. The 4th thing is I want to put more crops in. I want to keep my garden going. I want a succession plant. Check out your website for the area that you're in to see what you can plant in January for your climate. Over here in Auckland, I can plant things like beetroot and radish, beans, corn, tomatoes, what else? Leafy greens, lettuces, courgettes, cucumbers, capsicum. You can still put some chilies in if you've got a long hot summer ahead of you. I got a bit ahead of this video and I did already do that. Check out the video, I'll try and link it down below, of what I've put into succession plant. And the 5th thing is, 5. The 5th thing is I want to feed my garden. Every 4 weeks I try and get round with some Tui fertiliser, and then I'm also kind of every 2nd week putting some seaweed tonic around them as well. I think if I had done this before we went away in December, the plants might have survived the hot and the rainy disgusting period we had a little bit better. So that's a learning for next time, but we've given them some love. We've cut all the stuff back that doesn't need to be on them. I'm going to feed them again now, so hopefully they'll come away. And the reason you want to try and keep refreshing your soil and keeping the nutrients in is summer and spring is a really heavy growing time, so your plants are using all the nutrients that are in the soil. So to keep it going into autumn and make the plants a little bit more disease resistant when we do start to get that really hot, dry, gross period that I hope is coming, because we've had a terrible summer. If your soil's healthy, your plants will be healthy and they'll make it through. It also gives the garden the oomph to get through autumn, and then hopefully we can do some stuff in winter as well. I'll show you what I use. This is my really aesthetically pleasing bucket that I use in my garden all the time, and inside it is another bucket full of Tui Essential General Fertiliser. It's in the bucket because it has holes in it. I kept it in the garage and we had nibblers of the rat kind come through and nibble on my bags of fertiliser, so it's in there because it's got a hole in the bottom. I figured keeping it in the bag was the best way to try and keep it, I don't know, not damp and not exposed to stuff. I just reach in, grab a handful and just sprinkle it around the plants. So they say about, I think it's a cup per square metre. And then you just give it a bit of a scratch in, just to keep it under the soil. Grab any weeds that you might have missed. You don't want to feed your weeds. Scratched in the fertiliser. I'll come out and water it later because I don't really want to water right in the middle of the day. Here is another example of a courgette or a zucchini growing up. So I've lifted this one, it's doing really well, got heaps of new growth in there. I don't know whether I can get close enough for you to see, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this one recover and revive after cleaning the dead and the disease stuff off it, weeding around it, popping it upright, harvesting what was done, and feeding it. So 5 things all in one plant that should see this nicely last through the season for us. Also, the tomato I didn't trust, look at it. It's absolutely going for it. These are Russian red. They're a late season tomato, I found out, and they should go nicely for us into autumn, provided I keep them fed nicely. So that's 5 things I'm doing in my garden for the middle of summer to keep it going. You remove your dead, diseased and dying stuff, get rid of it, weed, harvest, replant your crops for the next part of the summer, maybe even get some seeds going, and then feed your garden. Water it in. You should be good for a couple of weeks. See you later.